Hello everyone, my name is Nebojša Vojvodic and I am a product manager here at Input Output. So in this session I invited a few projects from the Cardano community to talk about how they are seizing the new opportunities enabled by yet another key milestone on the Cardano roadmap, which makes it possible to build decentralized applications on our platform. But before we go into details of these exciting new projects, let me briefly talk about three things. First, some of the next steps we can take on a path towards global financial and social inclusion now that Cardano as a platform is becoming programmable. And second, about relevant features of Cardano infrastructure and ongoing projects that are already making them accessible to the developer community. And lastly, how we at Input Output are engaging with the projects in the community to help achieve this inclusion. So let's have a look at how these next steps might look like. So this is how DeFi has grown on established platforms like Ethereum, with a DeFi stack structure emerging. So let's zoom in on the important bit, which are the basic layers of this stack. So at the bottom we have units of value, which in Cardano's example are ADA and the native tokens that you can transact on its open permissionless ledger. The layer above that is the transaction layer, which basically means ability to transact, and this is still handled in layer 2 on most platforms and comes with gas fees attached. Then we have oracles, and more specifically price oracles, that secure and verify inputs of market data that is critical to the functioning of the DeFi protocols. Then we have DeFi primitives, which is a network of composable DeFi applications such as AMM trading pools, lending protocols, derivatives, decentralized exchanges, and asset management platforms. The layer on above that are aggregators, which don't custody collateral assets, but simply enable users to interact with other DeFi protocols in the layer below through a common UI. And on the top of the stack we have wallets and front ends, which exist basically to simplify the user experience in DeFi, which can be sometimes challenges and technical for non-sophisticated users to access. So let's put this in the context of open finance. So open finance is a superset of DeFi, and its goal is to make units of value, and in the context of Cardano, those are any assets transacted on its open permissionless ledger, to make them interoperable, programmable, and composable. So this will make financial services both more accessible and more efficient. So our next steps as a community of builders will be to focus on these key building blocks. With the addition of decentralized identity solution, as well as blockchain and smart contracts data analytics, which are also key components in achieving financial and social inclusion, particularly in the areas where it's not a given due to weak infrastructure, among other reasons. As you can see on this picture, which is courtesy of Cardians who put these graphics together, the Cardano community has been very busy preparing for the upcoming Alonso hard fork. And we have many of the key components in advanced stages of development and already running on Alonso testnets and soon on the mainnet. So let's also briefly talk about what are some of the unique aspects of building this ecosystem on Cardano, and in particular what we've been busy with at Input Output. The first topic is obviously native assets or native tokens as they are also called, and on Cardano they are lightweight, affordable, secure, flexible, and predictable. Lightweight because there are no smart contracts required and the ledger itself supports the accounting of non-ADA native assets. Affordable because they don't require gas fees for simple transfers, and no security calls are introduced by custom code because the ledger handles the transfers itself. And flexible because they support both fungible and non-fungible tokens, and you can actually store a mix of them on a single transaction output. The next one is, and a natural extension of that is a native stablecoin, and with JED we have the first formally verified crypto-backed algorithmic stablecoin protocol, and that can be backed to any fiat currency, USD or any other fiat currency. It also addresses some of the challenges of the existing stablecoin implementations, which can result in lack of transparency and liquidity of their reserves, and that can compromise their price stability in return. And this has also already been deployed on Ergo and also on multiple EVM platforms. And we also have a draft implementation in the Plutus language. Then we have Babel fees. One of the powerful features that I mentioned of the Cardano's accounting model is that the fees required for a valid transaction can be predicted before posting them on the ledger. So with Babel fees, users will be also able to submit transactions priced in any tokens they owned, providing a block producer is willing to take them up on the spot trade. It also makes it feasible for SPOs to be paid in any tokens they prefer, and they can set their own exchange rate as well as which tokens they want to accept. A natural extension of Babel fees is stable fees and a combination of Babel fees and stable coin. So this will ensure fair and stable transaction fees that are more predictable over time. And this will also make it possible to have a base price for transactions that are denominated in a stable assets through pegging this to a basket of commodities or currencies. Then we have decentralized identity, which is a key component of Cardano. And with Atala Prism, we have a decentralized identity solution that enables people to own their own personal data and interact with organizations seamlessly, privately, and securely, also in compliance with local regulations. It can also help developers so they can issue to prove their legitimacy to the community. We can verify identities for DApp developers and also have verified DApp reviews, ratings, and comments. Other use cases are obviously issuance and verification of digital IDs, credentials, and licenses, and we integrate them with education, health, government, enterprise, finance, social networks, and other use cases. The next, which I also want to point out here, is the DApp certification framework. So we are working with the community and we are building a strong ecosystem of auditing partners with runtime verification, Certic, Welltype, and Twig. And we are building a framework that comprises of 3 different levels of certification, and these 3 levels are complementary. They comprise of automated tooling that helps with property testing of decentralized applications, in-depth manual and automated code audits, which can help with reviewing the technology, but also the processes that led to it. And we are also looking into how we can provide formal verification, so both formal modeling and the formal verification of projects in the community. So input-output is actually facilitating this discussion about certification standard, and we want to help the community to articulate best practices. We will also use this to integrate this with the upcoming DApp store, where we will have certified apps through cryptographically secure NFTs. Apart from all of that, we have more than one way to build dApps on Cardano, with Plutus, Marlow, Glow, and eventually Solidity as well. And soon we will have also solutions that will enable interoperability with other platforms using sidechains and bridges. And finally, let's talk about what we are currently doing and planning to do over time to help the community build this ecosystem. So a key component of this is development onboarding, and the key aspect of that is the Plutus Pioneer program, which helps us recruit and train developers in Plutus for the benefit of the Cardano ecosystem. We have just finished the second round of this program and will be running more courses later this year, and the course materials, videos, exercises are available online for everyone. We are also hoping to extend these education programs to other components within the ecosystem, so keep an eye on some other presentations at the summit that will include announcements about that. Apart from development onboarding, we are also ramping up our support capacity, both in-house at input-output and within the developer community, with partners who've gone through Plutus training, and we want to help them with testnet onboarding, Plutus level technical support, and then integration with other components of the Cardano infrastructure and the ecosystem around it, like wallets, exchanges, web frontends, analytics tools, and also to help the community with DevOps for dApps like testnet and mainnet deployments, dApp distribution, and protocol upgrades and migrations, and data analytics. Then, as already mentioned earlier, there is the DApp certification framework that we are trying to set up together with the community. And this will include then requirement specification reviews and feasibility analysis of community projects, including also social design, solution design, and architecture reviews. Then naturally also code security audits and application certification, including formal modeling and verification, and tooling for DApp property testing and other testing tools. We are also looking into providing business consulting, like finding skilled developers for community projects for Haskell and Plutus and other platforms, then aligning our roadmap and testnet schedules with these projects, facilitating cross-partner collaboration, enabling channel partners that will help with integration of Cardano components and projects into let's say existing enterprise solutions, or even with other blockchain platforms. And another important thing that we can help the projects with is the community and market outreach, which includes promotion to our social and community channels owned by Input-Output, then joint content creation with guest blogs and video interviews, knowledge sharing with guides, best practices, contacts, and then joint media with press releases and distribution plans. And last but not least, we have the possibility to identify opportunities for funding. We have a C fund, which is a crypto-native hedge fund maintained by Bay Financial in partnerships with Input-Output. We have Catalyst, where community prioritizes funding for community projects using on-chain governance. And then we can also facilitate connections within the existing and emerging ecosystems. For example, bringing projects in touch with project launchpads and incubators. I invited a few projects that we at Input-Output are currently engaged with to share their experience on how they are coming together with the builders in the Cardano community, and to build open finance foundation of a future ecosystem of interoperable composable services on Cardano. So joining me today, I have Ali Raheman, founder at Autonio Foundation, Axel Thorsson, Chief Technology Officer and co-founder at Ekofolio, Brandon Kazakov, Chief Operating Officer at CardStarter, Jonas Lindgren, Chief Technology Officer at Charli Oracles, and Pai Leningham, Chief Information Officer at SundaeSwap Labs. So our vision for Cardano is that of social and financial inclusion, which we want to realize by building an open finance decentralized infrastructure as a community. So which particular problem in this space is your project hoping to solve, and how, and who you are solving this problem for, both within and outside of the crypto native community, and how will these people benefit from your solution?
So at Autonio, we're building a prosperous community around algorithmic trading. So we've been building these DeFi tools and infrastructure, primarily focused on making the opportunities in this space accessible to the end user and to the masses. So DeFi and decentralized apps in the current ecosystem can often be inaccessible due to different reasons. For instance, liquidity fragmentation, lack of appropriate intelligent tools to appropriately navigate the space with profitability. So our key focus really is to build that core intelligent trading infrastructure that enables both development companies and businesses to incorporate within their solutions, and the end user to navigate the space, which can often be very daunting, navigate the space with profitability, privacy, and ease.
So we're working in the forestry sector, and we're trying to solve the problem, very much like Ali just said, illiquidity, which it came to our attention is a problem in the forestry market. Basically, we're involved in trying to solve climate change and some of the other problems in the world. NGOs are doing a great job planting forests, but we need more. The problem is that until that is something that the average person can invest in. We solved that illiquidity problem. We're not going to get the scaling on the planting of sustainable forests that we need. So we're endeavoring to take forestry investment, tokenize it, put it on the blockchain, which will lower transaction costs, make it more accessible, and then scale it from there. So many of the same problems Eli just spoke about are ones that we're aware of, but applying specifically to the forestry sector.
At CardStarter, we are a launchpad for Cardano projects, so we connect our community of backers with all of the thoroughly vetted projects that launch through us. So there's some really interesting things we've seen throughout the lifespan of the project, and a metric that's always really interesting to me is how small of a percentage of people that are involved in cryptocurrency are involved in DeFi. So we've noticed that we've been onboarding a lot of these community members to DeFi protocols, how to actually use a DEX, how to connect their wallet, these sorts of things. And so people are getting much more immersed in crypto than they had been before. Ethereum has been sort of at the forefront of DeFi, but now with this transition, we've noticed a lot of Cardano users now getting onboarded into DeFi and understanding how to do these things. And just in terms of financial literacy, I think it's going to be, going to be great as we move forward.
Us here at Charli, we think that a good Oracle service is really crucial for the whole ecosystem to really prosper. So that's what we're trying to provide. We're trying to provide, be it price feeds, be it randomness, be it anything else that a project needs. Our target audience is a little bit, it's mostly other projects, but still we hope that by providing this, we can benefit the ecosystem as a whole and kind of help all the projects focus on their specific products and make the whole thing, every project in the ecosystem basically better for the end user.
Yeah, so I'm from SundaeSwap, and we're building a decentralized exchange. And what that fundamentally is it serves kind of that key role in a DeFi ecosystem of allowing somebody who has one token to get a different token. It's a pretty basic kind of core fundamental need. And so our users are anybody who wants to swap tokens. That could be your kind of retail trader. It could be somebody who needs a particular utility token, like the forestry tokens that Axel was talking about. Or it could be other projects who other projects and businesses who need liquidity for their tokens, like somebody who wants to accept payments in a token but trade it to a stable token so they have predictable incomes. And so we're really focusing on that kind of composable protocol to kind of serve as the basis for DeFi on Cardano.
Okay, thank you. So also, Cardano presents a unique approach to making this vision of financial inclusion a reality, with its peer-reviewed design, native tokens, stable and Babel fees, built-in identity, determinism and locality as core principles in design for smart contracts, as well as its dedication to interoperability with other platforms via sidechains and bridges. So why did you choose to build your product or a solution on Cardano? And how does Cardano's approach to programmability with smart contracts help you with the problem that you set out to solve? And are you facing any technical challenges that are specific to Cardano and Plutus as a platform, for example, the extended UTXO accounting model or Haskell as a programming language for smart contracts?
Yeah, well, Cardano is a massive ecosystem, and it seems the way that it is designed, it's sort of future-proof, keeping all of these different elements and limitations that we've seen with other networks in mind. So with the focus on scalability, and it's targeting not only, as Brandon pointed out, crypto-savvy individuals, but also the regular user, non-crypto friendly, are entering and interested in DeFi. So Cardano's model promises to be low-cost, scalable, and interoperable solution that can really power the next generation of DeFi applications. And given the huge undertaking, given just the design and of how it intends to be future-proof, there are expected to be certain issues or certain limitations, especially at an early stage. One of them, much talked about, are concurrency issues where multiple users are unable to consume UTXOs of a single liquidity pool contract. So there can only be one UTXO on a single block. It's a much discussed limitation as far as DeFi applications are concerned. But given the fact we're at an early stage and there are so many intelligent and smart people working on Cardano, we expect some interesting solutions to come up out of that. And I believe that out of this can really power the next generation of DeFi.
Yeah. So we've, first of all, our interest in Cardano began because we're just philosophically aligned. What we're doing is, we're about sustainability. We're sustainability focused, particularly in the area of natural capital, focused on forests right now. And so it's important that the environment that we use also have a similar outlook on things and be future-proof, because that's the future is what we're trying to safeguard. So specifically, Cardano, just over and above the general philosophy, proof of stake is very important to us. In as much as everybody is quite aware these days of the energy draw that other blockchains are using. A focus on sustainability, separation of the smart contract and settlement layers is quite important for us, because in our business model, one of the problems and one of the barriers to average investors has been, as you create a smaller investment in most natural capital areas, the transaction costs become disproportionately large for them. So the ability to lower transaction costs is important to us. Interoperability, which I think we're going to be hearing a lot of in our conversation, that's very important. We've started off, in Ethereum, and we're quickly moving to Cardano for all of these reasons. But we want to be sure that the interoperability between the Cardano project and various other platforms is there. So and lastly, I would say the model that Cardano uses, the ability to include metadata in transactions, is we're looking at some fairly sophisticated uses of that, and so the future eye toward that's very important to us.
So as a launchpad, there's a lot of interactions that our users, contract interactions that our users need to go through. So when they want to participate in an IDO, they need to register and they need to purchase an allocation, which is a contract interaction. On the Ethereum network, which we're currently on, is that they're plagued by not only high gas fees, but unpredictability of those transactions going through. There's significant amount of transactions that don't actually go through, and people aren't able to take the steps that they desire. So with Cardano, what's been really prominent for us and what we're looking forward to in terms of making a migration, the UTXO model allows scalability, and it also allows predictability of those transactions, incredibly cost-efficient transactions that are very stable. In terms of some of the challenges that I think that we might be facing, there's a lot of things that have been sort of tried and true and developed out on the Ethereum network. So, for instance, we have anti-bot measures that help prevent folks, or once liquidity is deployed, helps prevent sniper bots from sniping up liquidity at a cheap price and kind of dumping it on retail investors. We have yet to see what the architecture of the DEXs is going to be like on Cardano, and to be able to build around and have similar principles once we actually build out on Cardano.
Well, for Charlie, part of the excitement is definitely to be there, from day one and be part of Cardano system as it's being built. That's super exciting. But of course, there are advantages, but there are also some challenges involved with that. And one of the big shifts for us is moving over to the extended UTXO system. It's different, but at the same time, we think it's kind of a good fit for the way our oracles work, because the UTXO model can be used to build kind of a reasonable chain of updates, which is essentially how our oracles work. One example of benefits that we really like as well, it's the ability to associate metadata with the transactions, so that we can make each transaction that we make in our oracles more understandable for the user by providing kind of a human readable summary in this metadata. That is something that isn't really possible to do on Ethereum. That makes our oracles more user friendly, hopefully. If someone wants more information about how we take advantage of the extended UTXO system, they're welcome to look at our presentation video. We cover it in a little bit more detail there.
Yeah, at SundaeSwap, our DEX fundamentally lives and dies on the capital efficiency that we can provide to traders, and the returns that we can provide to our liquidity providers. And Cardano is kind of uniquely positioned in its design to help us aid that. There's this somewhat of an urban legend going around that Cardano isn't concurrent, and it's kind of ironic because when you look at its design and you look at the UTXO model, it's fundamentally designed to be parallel and concurrent. It's the protocols that you try to adapt to the Cardano blockchain that aren't concurrent, and so we're really looking for ways in our DEX to leverage that inherent concurrency to provide, better capital efficiency by eliminating front running and arbitrage, and diminishing the returns from arbitrage, and returns by kind of leveraging things like Cardano's staking to compound those returns for our liquidity providers. So there's lots of really interesting design choices embedded in Cardano that made it a very natural choice for a DEX in particular. The last one that I'll mention is, as other people on the panel have mentioned, the interoperability, right? Like a DEX wants to live at the center of an ecosystem where people are swapping tokens back and forth. And on a blockchain that is highly interoperable, we're not just at the center of one ecosystem, we're at the center of many ecosystems. And so that's what made Cardano such an interesting choice for us.
Okay, thank you. Some very interesting thoughts. So the next one is Cardano and the Plutus platform, as well as all of the interoperability solutions that we are working on, like sidechains and bridges. They all take a novel approach, even within the highly innovative blockchain space. And the skills to be successful in building solutions with it are non-trivial, and they require investment in time and money. So what is your approach to development on Cardano? How do you find relevant information? How do you onboard in-house developers? Or how do you find developers with necessary skills to implement your products on Cardano and on the Plutus platform? And how are you addressing your need for skilled developers to work on your ongoing projects, as well as how do you plan to do this as your business grows? And how do you decide then between growing an in-house development team or hiring external developers with these skills? And what are some of the insights that you are looking for that can help you make that decision? So in terms of expected demand for developers and their availability, developer training opportunities, and the expected growth of the overall ecosystem on Cardano, which is ultimately going to drive that demand.
I think first off, our input-output has been instrumental in really getting access to the necessary information, access to resources, and introduction to different projects and teams that are working in this space. So for us personally, that has been one of the key things that has helped us get acquainted and get all of the information that we need. What we decided to do for our project was to have our developers participate in the Plutus Pioneer program, educate and learn Haskell Plutus. And we made this decision because as early adopters and as early projects that are deploying on Cardano, and it's a big move, learning something new, but we're committed to the long-term deployment and development on Cardano, given how we think that this ecosystem is really going to grow. And so for us, it was an easier decision that we wanted our team to learn and have some of this in-house support that can help us with the longer-term development objectives of our own trading tool set that we're working on. And other than that, any newer projects that are looking to deploy and build on Cardano, I think there are several development companies that are actively working and have resources that you can retain in order to educate and train your in-house development team, or source them for whatever your development needs might be. So, and then in terms of access to information, the community, as I said, input-output has been extremely helpful in access to a lot of this information. There's Slack, there's Discord. It's a vibrant community that really facilitates and helps you navigate through whatever your use case might be.
See there, yeah. I would echo much of what Ali says. Input-output has been absolutely fantastic in its support. We enrolled 3 people in the Plutus Pioneer program, and one of them, actually 2 of them were. I didn't even think they would be interested, but the interest was so great there that that's something that they asked to do. So I wrote after the fact to get them joined up with that, and that really pleases me because as with the Ali's organization, we're very committed to Cardano going forward. For us, the decision is, right now we're trying to ramp up on Cardano very quickly and do so efficiently. So obviously, it's going to be several months before we have seasoned developers that are able to really take advantage of Cardano and what it has to offer. That's going to take somebody who has a little bit more time with the project. So the recommendations that Input Output has made as far as outside developers have been great. But one thing that's important to us is that we also have, that we don't depend fully on that. We're doing some, trying to do some partner development as well here so that we transfer some of that knowledge in-house as well. And it goes both ways because we also need to give the developer enough of a spec and be able to communicate what it is we're after and what's specific about our project. And I would say that's been one of the challenges is that you don't necessarily just take a Solidity contract and translate it into Plutus. There are advantages on Cardano, and there are things that just simply don't work the same way. And that's probably the biggest challenge, and the most important thing is that we find somebody who has a foot in both worlds. It is a rather proficient foot, so that we can get those answers that we need. But that's right now. We're because of the deadlines, we're looking to use outside people, but we want to transfer that knowledge in-house. So the question for us is mainly how do we get those people the level of experience that we want as quickly as possible. I agree the resources are out there are great. There's Slack and all sorts of other communities where they can communicate, but we are encouraging participation in other projects to the extent possible so that they get that, so they become seasoned as quickly as they can.
As a launch pad, we see we've got exposure to many different projects and see a lot of different different ways that they go about executing their needs. And luckily, there's some amazing outsourcing companies that are fulfilling a lot of the development needs of some of these projects. But we're also seeing a lot of them develop their own in-house developers, and Cardano is massively differentiated in this way. You don't see this with other ecosystems. The level of support that Cardano provides, the Plutus Pioneers program, input output is consistently helpful. Folks like Gimbal Labs, there's just so many resources that are providing these developers the resources that they need to get brought up to speed. In terms of us, it was really important for us to build out a development team in-house that is skilled in Plutus and Haskell because, as these projects are wanting to launch through us, we want to kind of help them navigate the high seas of development on Cardano to the best of our ability, or refer them to external resources to be able to fulfill their needs. And, developers, Plutus and Haskell developers, they're limited and they're in very high demand right now. But DeFi on Cardano is already exploding and going to explode even more now that smart contracts are live, right? We see it with the hackathon that we're doing in conjunction with you guys, right? So many applicants, so many developers that already understand what they're doing to some extent, and that's only going to grow from here.
Well, one of the biggest challenges for Charlie is definitely, as with many other projects, finding the right developers. Smart contract development on Haskell, it's a bit new for everyone, so the really experienced developers that everyone is looking for, they're very hard to find. So we are making use of external contractors like many others do. We have been fortunate enough to find some really skilled guys that are helping us out a lot, so we're really grateful for that. We're also looking to train and build up our own in-house team of developers to really have the kind of talent we need, that are experienced with building oracles and experience with using Cardano and Haskell and the extended UTXO system model as a whole.
Yeah, so at SundaySwap, we first hired a really skilled Haskell developer. That was one of the first actions we took back in May, I believe. And we paired that with the amazing talent at M Labs, a consulting firm. It was important to us, like many on the panel have mentioned, to bootstrap our development with people who had been working with IOG and had been familiar with the EUTXO model, but also to build that talent in-house. And what we found, it's ironic that there's this urban legend about Cardano. Oh, how are you going to find developers? There's no Haskell developers. Well, when Ethereum launched, there were 0 Solidity developers, and when Cardano launches, there are thousands of Haskell developers. So what we found is that hiring a really good Haskell developer leads to picking up those skills and that knowledge behind Cardano specific things and Plutus specific things very quickly. Some resources for doing that come at all kind of tiers of the stack, from the Plutus Pioneers program that people have mentioned to reading the specifications. Those have been also really helpful in understanding how Cardano works. In particular, the one on addresses and delegation was really enlightening for us. All the way down to, IOG, all of their source code is public. And so there have been many times where we dig into the Cardano node source code and, even going so far as adding trace statements to, understand things better. And so that has been really helpful in us getting up to speed very quickly. And we couldn't have done that if IOG was kind of a closed source company. So they've been really instrumental in that.
That's actually a very good intro into the next question. So thanks, P. So Cardano, as many other projects in our industry, is all about transparency and community participation in operating and also in evolving the underlying infrastructure, but also growing the solutions on top of that infrastructure. So how will the developer community as a whole benefit from your particular project? And will you implement reusable frameworks and tools? Will you share your research? Will your product be interoperable and composable with others in DeFi, open finance, and in other areas? And how do you collaborate with Cardano developer community and also with other projects that are building solutions on Cardano and on other platforms?
Yeah, at Autonio, we've been developing these intelligent trading tools and infrastructure since 2017, and we built one of the first decentralized exchange market makers. And one of the cool things about DeFi is it's just this ethos that you share research, you contribute to open source code, and that's one of the things that we're really committed to do. As a platform that will have functionalities like liquidity aggregation, we have the opportunity and the ability to work with the top DEXs, including Sunday, that are deploying on Cardano, and offer additional functionalities to even businesses where they can plug in these liquidity aggregation widgets into their apps, allowing users to access the best prices and assets all across the Cardano ecosystem. And so we believe the deployments that we will be doing over the course of the next few months, we're really committed to contribute to open source code and enable development businesses and projects to really incorporate that as part of their solutions, sort of like those Legos that they can build further on top of.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're primarily focused on the forestry area right now. But what we're developing actually has a wider implication for any type of natural capital. That could be water related, it could be ocean related. There are all sorts of projects out there that have similar characteristics. They're just a variation on a theme. So the development that we're doing right now, we want to make open source and available. We want other natural capital projects because our goal ultimately is to do good, to improve the current situation that we're in. And we're only going to do that if we can bring other people who are similarly motivated into this arena. So we've actually spoken with at least 2 other projects in the last couple of months, told them about Cardano, and we're pulling them also into moving toward Cardano and being able to issue tokens and go the same direction that we have gone. What this has done for us is actually given us a couple of other projects to incorporate into the testing that we're doing and the development that we're doing, so that we can be sure that our use case isn't, although we're focused on forestry right now, we don't want to over-engineer it to specifically forestry. We want this to be more widely applicable, and having actual other participants and other projects in that we can bring along is very useful in that. So I would also say that to make this open source, what we do is much more than just the tokenization and putting things, and making things tradable DeFi. We've also got a legal framework that has been quite tricky to develop. around how to package and how to offer the natural capital offerings we have. Different countries have different frameworks, and that's been extremely challenging. And we've worked out actually some quite innovative ways of doing it. So what we like to think is, we have an end-to-end solution that covers all of these other, not only the legal but the finance and the technical aspects of such an offering.
So, at the very least, the projects that launch through us, we provide some level of guidance in terms of development and deployment of their smart contracts. But really, I think the biggest benefit that we can provide is acting as a facilitator. So, you've got these ambitious developers that are going through the Plutus Pioneers program. They may have an idea, but they don't know how to take it to market. And so as a launchpad and an incubator, we help them fill those gaps and get their project to market. But beyond that, like I say, we act as a facilitator. Cardano, we're building this ecosystem of projects that will communicate with and interact with and integrate with one another. For instance, if a project needs an oracle, likely they will, we know who to refer them to. Charli, right? All projects are going to need a DEX to deploy their liquidity on. We know who to refer them to, right? And so that's as a launchpad, a lot of the support that we can provide is connecting the dots, because we have that network. We're established in the space that way.
Well, as an Oracle service, our job is basically connecting, working with other projects, composability with their code. That's basically the name of the game for us. We at Charli will also be talking to nearly every Cardano project, both past and present. So we feel like, other than just, of course, hoping that our Oracle services will be useful to them, we also kind of see it as our role to help them connect with each other. If there are any projects that would benefit from working together with any other projects, we would be happy to connect them and help facilitate that kind of connection. And we also think that we could be instrumental in helping provide projects with kind of the tools they need to get started, advice around workflow and similar solutions, kind of sharing our experiences. Since we will be connecting with so many projects, we think that will be something that we can really bring to the table.
Yeah, so one of the kind of core missions of SundaySwap is to create the most interconnected Cardano ecosystem we can, right? That's why we're building a DEX. And so some of the ways in which we've been doing that, we've already established partnerships with a number of projects and are always kind of doggedly pursuing more. So we've partnered with CardStarter, we've partnered with Liquid, we've partnered with Indigo, we've partnered with a few other that aren't announced yet, though they might be announced by the time this airs. So we're trying to build those partnerships and those relationships. And that leads into the second point, where we're trying to build our protocol to be composable. And this is a really unique aspect of Cardano in that it's really built for composability. Because of the way the extended UTXO model works, you can include kind of any inputs on your transaction that you want. And each of those, as long as they validate and kind of satisfy the constraints of how they want to be spent, you can kind of compose those protocols in a number of ways. And so we're really trying to lean into that and design our protocol for that composability. And then finally, we feel strongly about giving back. And so there are many tools that we are building that we either have already open sourced. So we built something that we call the Toolkit for Cardano that allows you to spin up a private testnet, mint tokens. It's got kind of a nice UI for exploring kind of these dummy wallets, things like that. And there are a number of tools that we're building internally that we'll also plan on open sourcing. And so, we want to both interconnect with other projects and provide back to the community and to those developer resources where we can.
Great, thanks a lot for that. So another question here is enabling programmability on Cardano with smart contracts. It's a major milestone in involving the wider community, such as the projects that you are running, in building solutions with Cardano and with input-output. But we are still in the early stages of enabling this financial and social inclusion. So how do you see the ecosystem of interoperable and composable services evolving on Cardano in the near and also in the long term? And which more complex use cases do you foresee will be enabled down the line by combining these initials building blocks that we are all working on currently with open finance and decentralized finance? And how are we going to be able to take them a step further and by adding additional value to the overall ecosystem?
So as P pointed out, that with the design and interoperability, Cardano can really serve as the core layer that can give access to liquidity across different networks. So I believe we will see this interoperability across different networks, cross-chain transactions that will really allow Cardano to be that core, that interface, really, so to speak, that gives you access to the wider ecosystem for the general audience. And then as we see more solutions and liquidity mining and such farming opportunities across different dexes, we'll have yield aggregation platforms that will allow users to put their assets to use across these different farming and mining and yield farming opportunities. One of the things that I personally am excited about that we're dedicated to working and building are multi-asset pools, which if you are familiar with Balancer, the V2 protocol, you see multi-asset pools, dynamic fees, dynamic pricing curves. All of these features and functions enable a wide array of complex solutions, and that's one of the things that we're excited about. And finally, being incubated by Singularity Net, which is like a decentralized AI company and working closely and deploying on Cardano, we think that we will see a huge uptick, and we'll see the presence of AI agents and these automated trading agents on top of Cardano. And that I think will be really an exciting time. Like Singularity DAO is one of the projects that's building AI managed indexes. So we'll see these index pools on Cardano, and at the back you have the ability to tap into liquidity across different networks. So I think that in the mid and long term, with Cardano, we really have that sort of missing piece that brings the entire ecosystem together, and it's really exciting to be involved with that at this stage.
I agree. Axel?
We're very excited about where Cardano is going. Liquidity has always been the problem, first and foremost, that we're trying to solve. And the interoperability and the transparency aspects of Cardano are just fueling that. We've spoken with so many people, as I said before, who are interested in coming along once we, if they don't already know about Cardano, once we give them the information about this and the direction that it's going. One of the things that we're quite excited about also in relation to Cardano is quite forward thinking. We've spent a lot of time working with regulators because we're quite heavily, anytime you're involved in investment, we have a world, we're very committed to DeFi, but at the same time, because we have physical assets, there are actual regulations and legal frameworks and legal hurdles that we have to jump through. As we've started, one of the problems with this was certain countries are not necessarily forward thinking with that. So we've actually incorporated in Luxembourg, and they're quite forward thinking, quite open to Cardano, and we're actually trying to bring together some relationships there so that the trajectory and the development that Cardano is going on will be supported by legal and financial frameworks in the case of real assets. So I think that there's some exciting developments there that are going to happen in the future, that the merging of those two worlds, traditional finance and DeFi. So those are some of the areas that we're most excited about.
Yeah, exciting times ahead, I guess. So Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, with the bridges being built out, KVM, we're moving in a direction of Cardano being really well positioned to effectively be a centralized hub of what people want to do in decentralized finance, right? Some really exciting innovations that can be made on already existing DeFi concepts, right? Yield protocols, synthetic derivatives protocols, the ability to interact with assets from multiple chains on via one application. There's so many things that we have to look forward to here, and I really do think that Cardano's best positioned to, like I say, be that sort of centralized hub.
Thank you, Jonas.
Well, personally, I think that as the Cardano ecosystem kind of keeps growing, especially in regards to smart contracts, we will start to see more and more, bank-like services. We're already seeing blockchain loans, DeFi loans. We're seeing collateralization of assets. That's a tricky word. And I think that's just going to continue, that kind of trend. And personally, I hope that means that these kinds of services become available to more and more people, because one of the advantages of the blockchain is that it's global. There are no restrictions on any specific country or anything like that. So that's a trend that I personally hope continues. And also a little bit selfishly, of course, I hope that we at Charli are able to provide oracles to all of these projects as well.
Like I mentioned in one of my previous answers, SundaySwap is really focusing on that composability aspect, right? That ability for the DEX to be a participant in transactions that other protocols might, need capital for. You see this on Ethereum with the notion of flash loans. And while the classic notion of a flash loan in kind of the exact same way that it exists on Ethereum doesn't exist on Cardano, very similar concepts exist of the ability of zero risk capital and zero capital arbitrage can be built into your protocols to allow kind of these protocols to be plugged together for different uses. And what that will lead to is, fundamentally useful work gets done when capital is put to use. And there's lots of capital out there that gets locked up or underutilized. And some of the design decisions in Cardano, the fact that your funds aren't locked while you're staking, and the fact that transactions work the way they do, allow this money to be doing useful work kind of more of the time. And I think that will lead to a really rich and powerful and productive ecosystem.
Great. Well, thanks all for joining. Maybe we could do another round if you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share briefly.
So I just like to echo that we're really excited to be involved and deploying and building on Cardano at this stage. And for us at Autonio, we've been very low key about the things that we've been working on and deploying, and we're really excited to present the things that we've been working on. So I invite you guys to take a look at the presentation that we will showcase, and I'm just super excited to engage with the Cardano community, let them know what we're all about, working with the likes of CardStarter, SundaySwap. I mean, all of you guys are doing an amazing job. So just super psyched, and yeah.
Thank you. Axel?
Well, I just, I've said it before, but it can't be said enough. Thank you to everybody in the Cardano community and Input-Output for the excellent work, constant support above and beyond. So that's been so helpful to us. And also, just this group here, very interested, Ekofolio, we are going to need oracles. We're going to need, a DeFi platform. So, all of these services, it's inspiring and great to see. And every time I talk with somebody from the Cardano community, it seems like that is a relationship that's going to be useful. And not only for us as a company, but also our mission to open up to bring this investability and liquidity out into the world, and the tools that people need in order to do good things. So yeah, great. It's a great community to be a part of. Very different, I think, in some important ways from other crypto communities that I've been involved with.
Thank you, Brendan.
Yeah, it's there's been this build up of anticipation for us, operating the way we have as a stopgap on ERC20, leading up until this point where we are about to make our migration to Cardano. And all I can really say is I couldn't be more excited because of all of the auxiliary support, all of the projects that we get to interact with working in the ecosystem. It's been really standout and differentiated from some of the interactions that we've had outside of the Cardano ecosystem. So yeah, just thrilled to be moving full steam ahead now that smart contracts are live, and really looking forward to once there's that functional DEX on ADA, once Sunday's going, to be able to migrate all of our liquidity over there and and never look back.
Great to hear that. Jonas?
Well, I would like to take the opportunity to, on behalf of Charlie, thank Cardano Foundation and IOHK for all of your assistance, and CardStarter for your help. And we're really excited to get started helping all these projects. We look forward to working with everyone here on the panel, any other projects that are out there, and just it's a really exciting time for us. And I hope that by the time you guys see this, the viewer, you will be able to already see Charlie oracles operating on the blockchain. That's my ambition. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to close with saying that I'm really excited to show you what we've built, and I'm really excited to be building on the platform that we are, and go Cardano.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining me for this session, and I'm very excited and looking forward to what we can achieve by working together. So there's some exciting times ahead. Thanks a lot again.